Oxygen catastrophe and multicellular development. First great apocalypse and evolutionary leap. Life has already begun. Simple microorganisms, archaea, bacteria, and subsequently the first photosynthetic cyanobacteria gradually inhabited the primitive oceans. They were microscopic, but their impact is enormous. The world seemed to follow a gradual, predictable path. Millions of years of slow evolution, millennia without significant changes. But it was during this period that a catastrophe was brewing in the bowels of the ocean that would change everything. Not a meteorite, not a volcano, and oxygen. This familiar element, without which we could not exist, was once poison. It caused the first major mass extinction on Earth, and with it, opened the way to a complex, multicellular life. But let's start at the beginning. In an environment saturated with methane, hydrogen sulfide, and carbon dioxide, where there was no protective ozone layer, cyanobacteria learned to use the light of the sun for photosynthesis. The byproduct of their life was oxygen. Initially, it interacted with iron dissolved in water, forming huge deposits of iron oxides, exactly those from which we extract ore today. But over time, the iron in the oceans ended, and then oxygen began to accumulate in the atmosphere. This process lasted not days or years, hundreds of millions of years. The atmosphere slowly, inexorably changed. And when the oxygen level reached a critical point, the old world of microbes that could not live in such conditions began to die out. It was the Great Oxygen Disaster, one of the most terrible changes that has ever happened to our planet. Let's stop for a moment. Do you have any idea that the atmosphere we breathe every second was not due to natural stability, but due to the apocalypse? Most anaerobic organisms, that is, those who could not live in the presence of oxygen, are extinct. But some found refuge in niches that are still preserved. In the depths of the earth, swamps, hot springs, animal intestines. They are alive now. They are living witnesses of a pre-oxygenous world. But the most interesting thing is that a new chapter begins with the disaster. It is thanks to oxygen that complex life appears. How did this happen? It's about energy. Oxygen breathing gives 10 times more energy than anaerobic processes. Organisms that have learned to use oxygen suddenly have an extraordinary energy resource. This jump in nutrition allowed the cells to become larger, more complex, and even unite. Eukaryotes appear, cells with a nucleus. And then, even more. One day, about 2 billion years ago, one cell swallowed another and did not destroy it. Instead, that inner cell became mitochondria, a source of energy. It was a symbiosis that changed everything. This union has survived to this day. Each of our cells has mitochondria, and they are all descendants of those ancient microbes. Ask yourself, what if this event had not happened? Would there be a complicated life at all? Gradually, these new, more energy-efficient cells began to form colonies. But it was no longer just a bunch of identical cells. Some cells began to perform specialized functions. Some protected the colony, others processed food, and others were responsible for reproduction. So the first multicellularity appears, a real revolution. For a long time, these organisms were extremely simple. But even then, in the oceans, the first experiments with forms, symmetry, movement took place. There are early types of symmetry of the body: bilateral, radial. One of the first multicellular predators may have been the comb, a transparent, jelly-like creature that lives in the seas today, but has roots that extend hundreds of millions of years into the past. Along with the emergence of complex life, the atmosphere also changes. oxygen gradually becomes the main component of air. The ozone layer appears, which protects life from harmful ultraviolet radiation. And this protection will subsequently allow life to go to land. But before that happens, life has to pass another exam. There is evidence that the oxygen catastrophe caused the first global glaciation, Snowball Earth. Temperatures dropped, the oceans froze almost to the equator. But in the cracks of ice, in warm underwater sources, life continued to fight. Think about it. Isn't it paradoxical that the biggest enemy of microbes, oxygen, has become our main ally? Disaster was a chance, and they took the chance. All the richness of life that we know today, fish, trees, dinosaurs, birds, you and I, is all a consequence of that ancient revolution. Life has learned to use the killer as a resource. And this is one of the most inspiring lessons of our history. It wasn't just a transition from a microbe to a multicellular being. It was an evolution through disaster, development through pain, moving forward when everything seems to be lost. And now a question for you. Were there moments in your life that seemed like the end, but really became a new beginning?